The longing for connection is real, but we've diagnosed it wrong. It's not the lack of connection, it's a surplus of delayed truth operating across three very specific containers: financial, material, and relational. Most people see these as separate problems, but they're not. Most of us don't even notice how deeply marketing and advertising has shaped not just what we want, but how we want it. And that's by design. Bank-regulated money is not the currency in the way you've been told to believe. Some of you know this already. Your time and your attention are. The marketing, advertising, hustle culture, celebrity, and influencer culture systems built around survival all know this. Yes, this includes the tech companies that have made AI easily accessible. It's an entire empire built around extracting your attention without your body level consent. Think about how that works. You scroll, you see something curated, you give an AI model a prompt, and it instantly delivers a reflection. It triggers an emotion, an aspiration, an ultimatum, fear of missing out, inadequacy, and desire. And the emotion pulls your attention, and your attention becomes data. That data becomes valuable, and your nervous system, which was trying to rest or focus or be present this whole time, gets hijacked in service of someone else's profit margin. This is clever, sophisticated psychology designed to extract exactly the right emotional charge to make you give your attention away. And the gag is, we're all doing it. We've all been trained to market ourselves this way, to perform, to role play, to extract attention, to treat our own lives like a product that needs visibility and engagement to have value. Shakespeare said it best, all the world's a stage. We're all performing. Now, what does this have to do with the financial, material, and relational containers I just mentioned? Everything. Those are the three foundational forces holding this entire experience together right now. Hold that in your thought. When your attention is being constantly extracted and redirected, your body level nervous system integrated truth gets distorted, gets warped, twisted, like static between radio stations. You start wanting things that aren't aligned with your body level truth. You want them because you've been told they're acceptable, presentable, because they come with a paper trail of achievement that proves that you're doing it right. Hustle culture tells you to work hard and get money. Then you can do what you actually want. Celebrity culture tells you, look like this, dress like that, and be seen with this, and then you'll be valuable. Influencer culture tells you to build a platform, extract attention, and monetize it. And then you'll have freedom. But none of that is grounded in body level truth. All of that is a distraction from the actual work, which is aligning your desire with your body level nervous system integrated truth. When you accept that wealth under these extraction terms requires distortion, that safety comes from earning status, that access is what matters, you are choosing a version of desire that's been designed for you, not by you. Pay attention. That choice has been rippling through all three of these containers for centuries. And if you're tapped into the heart of what I'm saying right now, I'm not leaving any room for you to be confused about this anymore. And the point here isn't to get rid of extraction, but it's to properly contextualize it so that you can do this experience, do your life differently. So that if you are financially, materially, or relationally wealthy, you're not investing your wealth into extractive systems that avoid body level truth. The financial container is where this all starts. It's the current of energy exchange, how you generate money, how you circulate money, the systems that are built around it. And the way that you generate and circulate money determines how the other two containers mature. This isn't separate from your relational life or your material comfort. It's the foundation that either supports them or constrains them. Building systems that are aligned with body level nervous system integrated truth while still being functional within a distorted field is no small task. Most of us inherit survival strategies around money. We were trained that safety lives in earning lots of it. Status equals access. More is always better, and how hard you grind proves how worthy you are. And when you start to challenge that strategy and start building systems that actually align with your truth, your survival mind panics. You see, the survival mind lives densely in the financial container. It is the financial container in many ways. Survival and bank-regulated money are the same equation in how we've been trained. So when you start refining and building something that honors both coherence and functionality, the survival mind will fight you. It'll try to add things, more offers, more effort, more noise, until overflow arrives that feels like success. But that overflow registers as panic and imposter syndrome, not achievement. And if analysis paralysis follows, if anxiety creeps in, if overwhelm arrives, if you find yourself hoarding with more options, more projects, more things, just in case it all collapses, those are signals. That's information. Your nervous system is telling you that something in the structure is still carrying distortion. Now, the financial container doesn't exist in isolation. It connects directly to the material container, which is where you live, what you eat, what tools you have, how much rest you actually get. And both of those connect to the relational container, which is who shows up for you, who you can be honest with, what mutual reciprocity and availability actually look like. But see, most of us try to fix these separately. We think that, well, if I just make enough money or make more money, the material stuff will automatically settle in. Or if I just find the right person, then the relational stuff will work itself out. But that's not how this works. That has never been how this works. I don't care how easy these couples online and offline and family groups and friend groups make it look. People are great actors and actresses. These three containers are tethered together. You can't stabilize one without addressing the others. If your financial system is built on distortion, then your material life will reflect that instability, full stop. You will either have too much, meaning overwhelm, clutter, sensory chaos, or you're not going to have enough, deprivation, constraint, scarcity mindsets. There's no middle ground because the foundation is unstable. And if your financial and material containers are unstable, your relational container becomes a survival mechanism. Full stop. You show up in relationships looking for what you're missing elsewhere. You extract, you manage, you protect, you guard. You can't actually be present because you're too busy trying to survive. This person's taking your energy, you're taking someone else's energy because you're not being a good steward with your energy. And then the whole narcissist and empath conversations never resolve. The gender wars never end. The orientation labels keep hiding deeper truths. And the cycle of suppression and obsession repeats generation after generation after generation. Y'all not tired? I am. Which is why I'm speaking about this. So here's what actually needs to happen. And this is actually the hard part. This is where most people stop because it requires facing things that we've collectively built our entire identities around, our entire lineages around, for those of you that are doing generational trauma work. you must reconcile 3 very specific things in the financial container. The first one, reconcile your codependency with misaligned work. That's codependency disguising itself as responsibility. Refine your relationship with work. Explore creative endeavors that light you up. Are you enjoying it even if you're not getting paid? Is it feeding your energy or extracting it? If it's enjoyable and feeding you, do more of it. Oftentimes, someone will genuinely pay top dollar to have or experience exactly what you're creating. And then ask yourself, can I continue to generate income in this that doesn't require me to abandon myself? Can I build and sustain this without depleting myself? Can I earn without playing a role for survival? But be careful here, because this bleeds into the second point, which is you have to reconcile the balance between passion and purpose. We're told, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's exaggerated marketing, wrapped up in self-help inspiration. Don't expect to get paid for every single thing that you love to do. Hear me clearly with that. Passion and purpose are survival mind stories for meaning. And when survival codependency is active, both of those things become obligations, empty obligations, just to get by. What you actually need is alignment, where what you're doing matches both what energizes you and what matters to you. But see, most of us chase passion and end up depleted, or we pursue purpose and then we forget why it mattered in the first place. Can you do something that feeds both? Can you earn in a way that's both nourishing and functional? And this brings us to number 3. Reconcile the belief that wealth requires distortion. This is the deepest one, because we've all picked up somewhere that to have money, bank-regulated money, you have to compromise or sacrifice something or someone. You have to market yourself. You have to perform a survival role. You have to extract. You have to hoard. But that's only true if you accept the game as it's been set up. What if wealth, not to be confused with money, but actual wealth of time, stability, nourishment, could come from body level alignment? What if you could build something that's both honest and functional? When you start doing this work of building a financial system that's actually aligned with your truth, your nervous system will know. It'll tell you. When the financial foundation stabilizes, the other 2 containers, your material and your relational containers, start to organize themselves differently. The hard work is getting your mind out of the results needing to look a certain way. The focus is on needing the vision to feel grounded and safe in the body, and to focus on the next best step in that direction. This is not a race, folks. Yes, the mounting bills and responsibilities can make this feel way more urgent than it is, but that's part of the extraction strategy at play here, to break you. But take a breath, reposture yourself. You're built to bend, not break. Bending is a sign of flexibility. Use this as practice ground for being more flexible. That's key here. Material life becomes less about accumulation and more about what actually serves your regulated, grounded state. Relational life becomes less about survival exchange and more about genuine, mutual reciprocity. There's one place where survival identity shows up that most people don't want to examine. One where all the distortion becomes undeniable if you're willing to look. And that's sexual identity, sexual orientation, how you relate to erotic charge, how you exchange it, what you allow, what you hide. As a former Tantra facilitator, I have a robust perspective on spirituality and sexuality in ways I can no longer be silent about or attempt to gatekeep. So here we are, sexual identity and orientation. They are where hoarding patterns become most visible. And most people won't go there because it feels too destabilizing, too personal, too connected to shame and guilt. But that's exactly why we need to look. Sexual education in most places is distorted or absent. We get biology, maybe we get don't do this wrapped up in shame, and if we're lucky, we get consent matters. But we almost never get context, real dialogue, actual understanding of sexuality, of what it is and how to relate to it coherently. So where do we learn it from? Movies, music, books, social media, from porn. And all of those sources have been curated by the marketing and advertising machines. They all have a specific narrative, a script, a way of performing sexuality that's designed to extract your attention, your money, and control you, not to help you understand yourself. Sexual identity gets formed here, not from your own body, not from your own truth, but from written scripts by people who don't care about your coherence. They care about your engagement, about profit, about keeping you in a state of confusion that makes you easier to control. When you grow up in that kind of environment, you learn to live within those scripts, hyper-controlled narratives about what sexuality is supposed to look like, what's acceptable, what's shameful, what's desirable. And most people think they're choosing of their own volition. They think they are expressing themselves, but what they're actually doing is selecting which script to follow. The good girl script, the player script, the mysterious script, the asexual script, the hypersexual script. Pick one, learn it, perform it, use it as your armor. And that's the key word here, armor. These scripts aren't expressions of sexuality, sincerely. They are self-protecting mechanisms, ways to control your own erotic nature so it can't hurt you or expose you or make you vulnerable. It's the same hoarding pattern you see in the financial, the material containers, but it's just now operating through your body and sexuality instead of bank-regulated money and space. You are controlling access to yourself. You are rationing your erotic energy. You're protecting yourself from intimacy by performing a version of sexuality that keeps people at a distance. When you don't understand the depth of your own erotic nature, in other words, when you're confused about what you actually want and what you're performing, you can't exchange erotic energy cleanly. You can only control it, suppress it, hide it, role play it, extract through it, manipulate with it, compulsively chase it, use it to fill voids that aren't actually about sexuality. And that confusion spreads. It becomes the basis for how you relate to everyone, how you exchange energy, what you allow, what you expect. And this is why boundaries get crossed. And it's not maliciously, usually, but it's because nobody involved actually understands the depth of what they're doing or why. Everyone's operating from surface level scripts. Everyone's trying to protect themselves. Everyone's hoarding their own erotic energy while trying to extract that energy from others. And then we get surprised when STDs and STIs spread, when unwanted pregnancies happen, when abuse and predatory behavior rise, when people end up in extremely controlling patterns, down low behavior. All of it is hoarding. All of it's delayed honesty. All of it is avoidance of actual self-connecting. Now, Let's be specific about sexual identity. Straight, gay, bi, unidentified, all of it. The fact that sexual identity needs to be claimed or hidden tells you something is already distorted. Because if sexuality was understood coherently from the start, identity wouldn't be a crisis. It wouldn't be a struggle. It would be what's true for you. But because sexual education is distorted, sexual identity becomes a survival decision. Do I claim it publicly or do I hide it? Do I perform a role from the dominant script or rebel against it? Do I integrate my actual experience or do I suppress it? And what makes this even more complex is that reconciling your sexual identity adds extra pressure to an already pressurized process of refining the financial, the material, and the relational containers. Because sexual identity touches all three. How you identify sexually affects how you earn. Some identities get paid less, some get hired less, some face discrimination. It affects where you can live safely and how you move through material spaces. And it fundamentally shapes who you can be intimate with and how. So when you're trying to align your financial system, your material life, your relational capacity, and you're also trying to reconcile your actual sexual identity with scripts you've been role playing, the pressure intensifies. The lag extends and the timelines get longer. And that's when most people turn to spiritual frameworks, astrology, psychology, philosophy, all these meaning-making systems that promise to contextualize the destabilization without requiring you to actually feel any of this. Oh, it's your soul purpose. It's Saturn return. Oh, do the shadow work. It's ego death. And people camp out there. They stay in these frameworks. They use it to intellectualize or spiritualize what's actually a very direct body level crisis. They avoid the sharp edges of the structural mechanics by hiding in meaning. Please hear me clearly. The frameworks are not wrong. They can be useful, but they can also become avoidance when they let you skip the actual emotional processing work. It's not understanding your childhood trauma through the psychological lenses. It's the actual work of feeling what that trauma created in your nervous system right now. The actual work isn't knowing that Mercury is in retrograde. The actual work is staying present with the destabilization that's happening in your physical body. The frameworks are a detour. And most people need that detour because the direct path is actually too sharp. It's too real. It's too destabilizing. It's valid. That's a valid point. But you can't stay in that detour forever is what I'm saying here. Eventually, you have to come back to the breath in the body. Let me name what's actually happening when you start examining survival identity and sexual confusion. You're looking at something that's been building pressure in your entire life. You're noticing how much of your sexuality isn't actually yours. How much of your identity is a survival role you've convinced yourself to play. How much of your erotic energy has been hoarded or controlled or used as a tool for self-protecting. That's destabilizing. And it's meant to be destabilizing. That's not a wrong thing. Destabilization itself is the remedy here. Not because it feels good, it's because real information is entering into your awareness for the first time. Real truth about what's actually happening in your body and in your patterns. But see, most of these frameworks will tell you that this is an ego death or a dark night. Something spiritual is happening. Something that will eventually lead to some transcendence, some ascendance. But I'm telling you something different here. It's just clarity. It's just something real has entered into your awareness. That's it. That's all. And the pressure you feel isn't cosmic. It's structural. It's the pressure of the systems, the ones that we've inherited, the ones that we're building lives under, the ones that are around us. It's meeting the person who's starting to see the structure clearly. It's meeting someone who won't role play the script anymore. It's meeting someone who wants alignment rather than control. And that pressure is what creates the lag you experience in all three of these containers. You're trying to build a financial system that's coherent while your sexual identity is still in survival mode. You're trying to create material safety while your erotic nature is still being hoarded and controlled. You're trying to have genuine relational reciprocity while your sexuality is still being guarded out of unprocessed grief and shame and guilt. That's not how this works. Not fully. Not until you reconcile what's actually true about your sexuality with how you're living. Come back to the breath. Not as a way to transcend or escape, but as a direct line to what's actually happening in your nervous system right now. Come back to the body. Not to analyze it or understand it or spiritualize it, but to feel it, to notice what's contracted, what's guarded, what's alive, what's numb. Come back to your nervous system, the one that's been registering all of this confusion and all of this pressure the whole time. The one that knows the difference between a survival orgasm and a coherent one. The one that knows when you are in control and when you're actually present. Come back to your digestive system. Yes, your digestive system. Because your gut knows. When you're in hoarding mode, your digestion reflects this. When you are playing a survival role, a sexual role instead of expressing it, your gut knows this. Your body has intelligence that your mind has trained itself to ignore. These are not metaphors. These are intelligent systems placed within you. They work with you. They work through you. They are designed to help you hold the complexity of what's actually true about you. When you actually come back to them, rigid survival habits have less and less room to hide. Control patterns become visible, hoarding becomes obvious, survival roles become undeniable because your body is telling you this does not feel right. This doesn't feel aligned. The controversial thing that makes you uncomfortable, the sexual truth about yourself, the identity that doesn't fit the script, that's the remedy. Not something to fix or heal or transcend, but something to integrate. And integration doesn't mean acting on everything or becoming someone different. It means acknowledging it, allowing it to exist in your awareness, stopping the fight against it. Because the energy you're using to fight it, that's the same energy you're using to maintain the hoarding pattern. That's the energy that's keeping you small in those other containers. When you stop fighting what's actually true about your sexuality, you free up that energy. And suddenly, the financial container feels less suffocating, the material space feels more spacious, and the relational container can breathe. Why? Because you stop using all your resources to maintain a lie. By now, you're probably seeing something. Sexual identity is distorted because sexual education is distorted. Scripts are survival mechanisms masquerading as sincere expressions. The frameworks we use to make meaning often keep us from feeling body-level truth. And all of that shapes how you desire. Not just who you desire or what you desire, but the quality of desiring itself, the mindset behind it, the mechanism that's driving it. Desire is not neutral. Your time, your attention, your erotic energy, these things have all been extracted, packaged, and scripted. So the desire that emerges from that environment carries that distortion. But it's more than that. Every single desire you feel is being driven by one of two mindsets. Only one in any given moment. One is driving the car here, and the other might be present, but it's not steering the wheel. And understanding which one is driving changes everything here. You're going to catch this. You're going to get this. Let's start with what most people are actually operating from. Survival-driven desire. This is the desire that emerges from the hoarding pattern, from the need to control, accumulate, protect, extract. It's the desire that says, I need that to feel safe. I need that to prove my worth. I need that to fill the void. And survival-driven desire has specific mechanics. Let's unpack them. The first one, it's rooted in scarcity. It's the belief that there isn't enough. There's not enough love, there's not enough attention, there's not enough resources, so you have to secure it. You gotta hoard it. Make sure you have options in case one of the options don't work. That's why survival-driven desire often looks like maintaining multiple options, keeping people interested even when you are not interested in them, extracting validation without intending to give anything back. It's just the math of scarcity. Even if your intentions are good, if there's not enough, you gotta accumulate. That's the math. Which brings us to the second point. It's rooted in survival role playing. Survival-driven desires require you to be someone specific, to perform a version of yourself that will secure what you need to accumulate. The sexy version, the successful version, the mysterious version, the available version. So you're not actually desiring from your own truth. You're desiring as the character you've created in your head. And that character is designed to extract and exploit attention, validation, resources, commitment, without having to be vulnerable or immediately honest. The third one is rooted in urgency. Survival-driven desire feels urgent. It feels like if you don't secure this now, you'll miss it. It feels like there's a timeline you have to beat. That energy, that urgency, is the mind in self-protecting mode. That's the signal that scarcity is driving. The urgency is seductive, though. It feels like passion. It feels like intensity. And people confuse it with genuine connection all the time. But it's not. It's desperation wearing a full beat of makeup. Fourth one here is it creates extraction. And this is the outcome of the other three. Survival-driven desire doesn't create mutual reciprocity. It creates extraction and exploitation. Someone has to give more than they receive. Someone has to perform while the other benefits. Someone has to be vulnerable while the other person stays grounded or guarded. And the system is built on that scarcity. There's only so much to go around. So the goal isn't mutual nourishment. The goal is securing your piece of the pie. And the gag is that survival-driven desire can feel good while it's happening. The urgency feels like aliveness. The survival role playing feels like power. The extraction feels like success. But it leaves everyone involved depleted, extracted, exploited, used, misused, and abused. Now, let's unpack something most people barely experience, and that's coherent-driven desire. This is the desire that emerges from alignment, from your body level truth, from the nervous system that's regulated and present. It's the desire that says, this feels right, this nourishes me, this sees me, this is reciprocal. Coherence-driven desire has its own mechanisms. The first one, it's rooted in abundance. Not material abundance necessarily, but the internal abundance that comes from knowing you're already whole, that you don't need to fill a void with another person. What you have to offer is enough. Coherence-driven desire doesn't need to hoard because it's not coming from scarcity. It can afford to be selective, to wait, to let things unfold at their own pace. Because the belief is there's enough. There's time. That quality matters more than quantity. Which brings us to the second one. It's rooted in authenticity. You're not creating a character to secure attachment. You're just present as yourself with all the complexity and contradiction that it entails. And that means when you desire something or someone, it's actually you desiring it. Not the version of you you think will be acceptable, not the mask, you. And that changes everything because authentic desire invites authentic response. When you show up as yourself, people can actually meet you or decide not to meet you. Not the fantasy of you, the actual you. Which brings us to the third one. It's rooted in ease. Coherence-driven desire doesn't feel frantic. It doesn't feel urgent in the survival sense. It might feel clear, focused, but there's an ease underneath it. A sense of, this is what I want, and I'm willing to wait for it to be reciprocal. That ease is a signal. It's your nervous system saying, this is aligned, this is safe, this is sustainable. And this leads to the fourth one, which is the outcome. It creates mutual reciprocity. Coherence-driven desire naturally creates mutual exchange because all parties are present. All parties are offering their actual selves. All parties are choosing, not latching and grasping. There's no extraction because there's nothing to extract. Everyone's nourishing each other from a place of wholeness, not filling voids. Coherence-driven desire can wait. It can be patient, not in the passive way, but in the ways that say, you know what? I know what I want. I'm clear about it. I'm willing to let the timeline unfold, and I won't compromise my reciprocity to speed it up. So now the question is, which one has the steering wheel right now? There are signals, body signals, nervous system signals. Pay attention to them. Signal number one, the quality of the urgency matters. Survival-driven urgency feels like panic convincing you that it's passion. Your nervous system is spiked, your body is tense, there's desperation underneath that. Coherence-driven focus feels clear, alert. Your nervous system is regulated. Your body feels grounded. There's intention underneath. If you're feeling desperation, even if it looks like excitement, survival is steering. If you're feeling clear intention, even if it's patient, coherence is driving. Signal number two, the quality of the fantasy. Survival-driven desire creates fantasy. Stories about how this person or situation will complete you, how it will solve the void, how it will prove your worth. Pay attention. Are you desiring the actual person in front of you? Or are you desiring the story you're creating in your head about them? Coherence-driven desire is present with what's actually there. Not what you imagine it could be, what actually is. Signal number three, what you're willing to compromise. Survival-driven desire will compromise anything. Your boundaries, your honesty, your values, if it means securing the attachment. Coherence-driven desire won't do that. It's willing to let things go if they require you to abandon yourself. And that's the clearest signal here. What are you compromising to maintain this? Your sleep? Your integrity? Your other relationships? Your creativity? Your peace? If you're compromising, survival is driving. If you're not willing to compromise, coherence is driving. Signal 4, how you feel. Survival-driven desire leaves you depleted, even if it felt good in the moment, because extraction requires energy. Survival role-playing requires energy. Hoarding requires energy. So afterwards you feel tired, empty, like something was taken from you, like you had to force perform, like you're waiting for the next hit of validation. Coherence-driven desire leaves you nourished, even if the interaction was brief or didn't lead to anything. Because mutual exchange creates energy. Authenticity creates energy. Reciprocity, mutual reciprocity creates energy. So afterwards, you feel alive, full, like you're letting a good meal digest, like something was exchanged evenly, like you could be yourself, like you're not waiting for anything. Pay attention to how you feel afterwards. That's the signal. But the honest part is that most people stay in survival-driven desire. Not because they don't know about coherence-driven desire, but because survival-driven desire is rewarded. Survival-driven desire is what the system recognizes and values. It creates consumption. It creates neediness. It creates the kind of desperation that people buying things, performing, extracting from each other. It's familiar chaos. A chaos-primed system needs survival-driven desire to function. Process that. Coherence-driven desire, on the other hand, is destabilizing. It doesn't need to consume. It doesn't need to force role-playing. It doesn't create the kind of extraction that keeps the chaos machine running. So, coherence-driven desire is often punished. People who operate from it are called selfish, cold, too picky, too intense, too deep, and they're told that they're trying or they're doing too much, that they need to compromise, that they need to be more palatable. But they're not. They're just refusing to extract or be extracted from. And that refusal is threatening to internal and external patterns built on extraction. So there's a cost to choosing coherence-driven desire. You become visible in a different way. You become vulnerable in a different way. You stop survival role-playing. You stop hoarding. You stop trying to control the way and the outcome of things. And most people aren't willing to pay that cost. Especially when survival-driven desire feels like love and passion and intensity. But when it comes down to it, you have a choice about which one is steering. Not all the time, and not perfectly, but in moments you can notice which one is driving and then make a different choice. You can feel the survival urgency rising and choose to pause, to come back to your breath, to check in and ask, is this actually aligned? Or is this scarcity talking? You can notice the role playing happening and choose to stop, to show up as your full self instead, even if it's risky, even if it means the other person might reject you. You can recognize the extraction pattern and choose to disengage, to wait for mutual reciprocity instead of settling for one-sided exchanges. You can feel the ease of coherence and choose to trust it, even though it feels slower, even though it feels like you're not doing enough. But see, these choices won't change the external system. The system will keep trying to pull you back into survival-driven desire because it benefits from that. That's the thing. That's the natural consequence here. But those choices will change your experience. And when enough people make these choices, when enough people refuse to operate from survival-driven desire, the external system has no choice but to reorganize. If there's any consolation here in this part of the message, you need both the survival and the coherent mindsets. The survival mindset is not the enemy here. It's not something to transcend or overcome. It's your protection system. It keeps you safe. It helps you navigate a world that isn't always safe. And the goal isn't to kill it. The goal is clarity about when it's actually needed and when it's running on autopilot. Sometimes survival-driven desire is appropriate. If you're in an environment where you actually need to protect yourself, if you are with someone who can't be trusted, if the stakes are genuinely high, you need it. But most of us are running survival mode desire all the time, even in safe situations, even when people are trustworthy, even when coherence would serve you better. The work, your internal work, is remembering to consciously choose which one is steering. Not to make survival go away, but to activate it when it actually is needed and let coherence lead when it's safe to do so. And this requires body awareness. That requires nervous system literacy. That requires capacity to pause and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? What do I actually need? What mindset is driving this? And then to choose consciously instead of defaulting to the pattern. There's a specific kind of torture that happens when you're internally clear but externally foggy. You can see the lag, you understand the patterns, you know what needs to happen, but nothing's moving. And around you, other people seem to be thriving, moving forward, getting what they want. And so you start to question, am I the problem? Is my clarity actually wrong? Should I just accept this lag and stop expecting more? And here's what I want you to consider here. Are those other people actually thriving? Or are they just performing a more convincing version of being stuck? Because what looks like thriving from the outside is often just more convincing performance, better distortion, a more sophisticated way of lying. And the ability to see the lag, to name it, to feel how unsustainable it is, that's not a personal failure. That's you waking up to something real. But staying awake while everyone around you is asleep, that's the torture. To understand the lag, you need to understand something most people don't even know exists, and something that I've been attempting to help bring into the collective focus, and that's there are 3 timings operating simultaneously, and they are almost never in sync while we're here. Timing number 1, your timing. This is your internal rhythm, your nervous system's truth, your body's pace, how fast you naturally move, how much time you process things, what your actual capacity is in this moment. Your timing is grounded. It's rooted in your nervous system. It's the pace at which your body can actually sustain coherence. And then there's timing number 2, the timing of those in your orbit, those around you, those meant to connect with you. This is everyone else's timing, their nervous systems, their patterns, their lags, their avoidance, their capacity or lack thereof. Most people in your orbit, though, are operating from a different timing than you, because most people haven't developed the awareness that you have. Most people are still running on autopilot, still performing survival roles, still avoiding. So their timing is set by their distortion, not by their truth. And then there's timing 3, the timing of the shared field. This is the collective space, the collective pace, the cultural momentum, the preset systems rhythm, what the shared structures reward, what gets visibility, what gets suppressed. And the shared field moves at the pace of the lowest common denominator, which means it moves at the pace of distortion, not clarity. Now, here's where the torture amplifies. Your timing is fast, not in urgency, but in honesty. You see things clearly, you process quickly, you are not wasting energy on denial. And the timing of those in your orbit is slower because they're the ones still using energy to maintain the denial, the role playing, the distortion. They're not being direct. So everything takes longer. And the shared field is moving at the pace designed to keep people sedated, distracted, and playing roles. So you have 3 timings, all moving at different speeds, all trying to occupy the same space. And this is what creates the lag and prolongs it. You are moving at the pace of clarity. Everyone else is moving at a pace of distortion that they know or don't know. And the system uses that to slow you down to match the distortion pace. But you can't slow down your clarity without numbing yourself. And if this video has found you and you've made it this far in the video, you're not willing to do that anymore. So you stand here. You sit here. Internally moving at your pace. Externally waiting for everything else to catch on to your rhythm. And the gap between your internal timing and the external timeline creates a state of suspension. That's the amplified torture here. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that the 3 timings are fundamentally misaligned. In other words, you are becoming sober in a drugged out world. Everyone around you is operating from distortion, and maybe even you flipped upside down and someone else is operating in clarity. And then there's marketing, denial, avoidance. All of it's normalized and all of it's the baseline. And then clarity, your clarity, which is your ability to see through the distortion and challenge it, makes you look crazy to people who are still inside it. You're naming things people don't want to see. You are pointing out contradictions that make them uncomfortable. You are asking for honesty in a world built on survival role play. Your nervous system is loud. It's not dysregulated. It's being activated by all of the distortion around you. It's trying to wake you up and keep you awake. And that loudness can feel like you're tripping on something, like you're having an altered experience, like psychosis, like something is wrong with you. But no, you are the one that's sober. Everyone else is high on distortion. And the discomfort you feel isn't because your clarity is wrong. It's because your clarity is incompatible with the environment you're in. And most of the frameworks that are available, like religion, astrology, science, education, mass media, they all offer you a way to contextualize this discomfort and a story that explains it, a meaning that makes it feel purposeful. But all of those frameworks, every single last one of them, flatten the complexity here. They reduce a 3-layered timing problem into a single story. Oh, that's God's plan, or oh, that's Saturn's return, or it's how the system works. You need to be more spiritual. You need to accept what you can't control. Take a breath. The actual complexity requires holding 3 contradictions at once. Your timing is valid, their timing is valid, the system's timing is valid, and they're fundamentally misaligned. That's the truth. It can't be flattened without losing that truth. This is why I'm so precise with my language. This is why I refuse certain words and framings. It's why I reframe constantly. Because language is where distortion hides. Language is where the 3 timings try to merge and pretend they're the same. When we say rare or chosen, you're flattening scarcity into inevitability. When we say versus, we're creating exaggerated binaries. When we say someone is asking for something, We're flattening observation into demand. Language either clarifies or obscures the three timings. There's no neutral ground here. When you start using language precisely, when you refuse flattening the language, something shifts. People start to feel the actual complexity instead of the comfortable story. That precision of language, combined with precision of identity, knowing who you actually are and who you're performing to fit in, that's what keeps distortion from having hiding spots. And that's unsettling. Because hiding is how most people survive. The shared truth is that everyone's lying. Not all the time, and not about everything, but strategically, consciously, or unconsciously, to survive. People are lying about their capacity, lying about their availability, lying about how they feel, lying about what they want, lying about what they're doing and why. People are cheating in relationships, in work, in their lives, taking shortcuts, bypassing truth, using clever language and semantics to avoid responsibility. People are stealing. They're stealing attention, energy, credit, resources, taking what isn't freely giving and calling it something else. People are scamming, marketing themselves as something that they're not, creating the appearance of success, alignment, coherence, while operating from distortion. People are manipulating, using psychology, emotion, image to control outcomes without being honest about it. And people are avoiding pain, avoiding danger, avoiding the truth about what they're actually feeling and what they actually need. All of it. Most people are doing all of it every day. And this isn't shade. I'm just audacious enough to call it what it is. But people keep this pattern alive by not calling it what it is. They'll say, well, it's not a lie, it's a white lie. It's not cheating, it's I gotta look after myself. It's not stealing, I'm just asking. And I'm not scamming, it's just good marketing, good business. It's not manipulation, it's understanding what people need. You see the twist there? All of that language softening is the mechanism that lets avoidance continue. And my invitation to you isn't to stop doing this. Keep doing it. Keep lying. Keep cheating. Keep avoiding. Keep manipulating. Keep using whatever survival strategies you need to use. But do it consciously. I'm not asking you to be pure. I'm not inviting you to transcend the survival mechanisms. I'm not asking you to be honest in environments that can't handle honesty. Because that's the truth. Some environments are toxic. Some are abusive. Some literally cannot hold the full truth without punishing you for it. So lie. Absolutely lie. But lie consciously. What does that mean? It means noticing when you're doing it in real time. You feel yourself about to avoid, you feel yourself about to perform a role, you feel yourself about to extract, and instead of doing it on autopilot, you notice it. I'm about to lie right now because telling the truth would create conflict I'm not safe enough to handle. I'm about to cheat this system because the system isn't designed for my actual needs. I'm about to manipulate this person because I don't have the capacity to be direct. You name it to yourself consciously. And the moment you name it, something shifts. When you move from unconscious avoidance to conscious avoidance, you slow down the pattern. You're not speeding through the autopilot anymore. You are observing yourself doing the thing, and observation creates space, and space creates choice. And in that space, something becomes possible. You start to see why you're using the survival strategy to begin with. Maybe it's because the environment genuinely can't handle the truth. Maybe it's because telling the truth would mean losing something you need. Maybe it's because you're not safe enough yet to be direct. And these are all valid reasons. Those are all survival reasons. But when you see them, when you consciously observe them, you also start to see the cost. What's it costing you to maintain the lie? What's it costing you to keep role playing? What's it costing your nervous system to sustain this kind of avoidance? And sometimes the cost is worth it. Sometimes you need to keep the lie in place because the alternative is worse right now. But sometimes, slowly, incrementally, you realize the cost is getting higher. And you start to look for another way. You don't go from total avoidance to total honesty in that context. That's not possible in toxic environments. It's not sustainable. It gets punished immediately. Instead, you sprinkle some truth into the avoidance. You're still lying overall because the environment requires it, but you slip in a small honest thing. One moment where you let the mask slip off a bit. One place where you tell a piece of the truth. And you watch what happens. Does the environment respond? Does someone notice? Does something shift? If nothing happens, you go back to full avoidance. It wasn't safe. If something does shift, even small, you notice it. You file it away and you wait. And the next time you try a micro shift, another small truth to sprinkle, another character flaw to see and to notice. And you sprinkle it again and again and again. Each micro shift gives your nervous system more evidence that a little bit of the truth is survivable in this environment. That you can exist slightly more authentically without getting destroyed. And those micro shifts accumulate. Something changes. The lies get harder to maintain. The role playing gets more exhausting. And the avoidance gets more obvious, even to the people around you. And then the environment has a choice: adapt or let you go. Some environments will start to shift. People will start to meet you with a little bit more honesty. The system will loosen just enough to let you breathe. Other environments will tighten. They'll punish the micro shifts. They'll make it clear that you're not safe here. And when that happens, you have different information. You know it's time to leave. You have evidence that this environment can't adjust to your timing. But you didn't force it. You didn't demand transformation. You just slowly, consciously made different choices. And the environment responded by showing you what it actually is. When you stop judging yourself for lying and avoiding, you free up massive amounts of energy. And that energy has been going into self-judgment, into trying to be good, into performing purity, while secretly using survival strategies anyway. When you accept that you're using them, you stop wasting energy on denying. And that freed up energy gets redirected. It goes into observation, noticing when you're doing it, into making the micro shifts. That observation is what actually slows down your pattern enough to observe others' patterns. When you're not running full speed on autopilot, you can actually see what timing everyone else is moving at. You can see the shared field space more clearly. And when you can see those timings clearly, you can navigate them consciously instead of reactively. You start to move at your own pace, but with awareness of the other two timings. You are not trying to speed them up or slow them down. You were just consciously moving while staying aware of where they are. And from that awareness, the three timings start to find natural points of intersection. Not full alignment, but moments where they can sync briefly, and then moments where your timing and someone else's timing and the shared field's timing touch. And those moments are where real change is seen. Not through willpower, but through conscious navigation of actual human complexity. When enough people stop fighting their own survival habits and start observing them consciously, when enough people refuse the moralized frameworks and hold the actual complexity within them, when enough people make micro shifts instead of demanding total external transformation, then the field, the shared field, has to reorganize. And you are no longer participating in the collective lie in quite the same way. You're still doing what you need to do to survive, but you're doing it consciously. And conscious participation is different from unconscious participation. The system depends on people operating on autopilot, on people not noticing what they're doing, on people maintaining denial so complete they never question or challenge the structure. But when people start to notice, when they start to observe their own avoidance, when they start to make conscious choices about when to lie and when to be honest, that awareness creates leverage. And leverage, applied gently and consistently through micro shifts, changes what's possible in the shared field. The timelines don't perfectly merge, but they move closer. The lag decreases, but because the collective consciousness shifted just slightly. And when the collective consciousness shifts, the conditions that support coherence becomes even more possible. What you're experiencing right now, if you're feeling any of what I'm saying here clearly, you are living in a grief gap. It's the space between what you're keenly aware of and what's actually possible, between the clarity you have and the conditions that could support that clarity, between your timing and everyone else's timing. That gap is grief. Not the kind that comes from loss of something or someone that existed, but the kind that comes from perceiving what could exist and being unable to force it into being. And most people don't know how to process that kind of grief because it's not about something that died. It's about something that can't yet be born at your command. We're told time heals, and yes, that's conceptually true. Time does heal, but in practice, time is the problem and the solution simultaneously. You need time to process the grief, but the waiting, the time itself, is what deepens it. So you're managing day-to-day survival while simultaneously allowing the emotional waves that come with processing existential grief. And that's not a personal flaw. That's the actual texture of this moment. We deal with limited funds, borrowed space, relational deprivation, being unhoused, whatever limits you're facing right now. Those are not just obstacles, they're containers of processing layers of grief that you wouldn't otherwise access. If you were fully immersed in survival identities and habits, meaning if you were completely numb right now, you wouldn't have to feel any of this. You just keep moving, keep role playing, keep avoiding. But because you're clear, because you are conscious, the constraints force you to slow down and feel. And that's painful. But it's also clarifying, because grief, when you actually stay with it instead of numbing it, trains your brain to remember something, to remember what matters, what's real. what's sustainable and what's exaggerated. But see, visibility plays a role in this as well. And this is one of my current processing griefs. And as it's been a huge personal roller coaster online as a digital content creator and offline in my day-to-day life, visibility is simultaneously controlled and it's fluid. It's controlled by the systems, the algorithms, by who gets platformed and who doesn't. And there are forces shaping what gets seen and what stays invisible. But visibility is also fluid. Things shift. Timelines change. What was invisible becomes visible. What was visible disappears. So you can't force it. You can't demand that your clarity suddenly becomes visible to everyone. You can't rush it to the preferred proportional outcome. You have to slow down. You have to disengage from the need to control visibility. And that disengagement or that slowing down, it actually sharpens your discernment and your perception. And it actually speeds things up. When you stop fighting for visibility, you start seeing what clearly works, what's actually happening. And when you stop demanding outcomes, you start noticing what's actually possible. And you often need solitude to realize that. You see, solitude isn't necessarily isolation. Solitude is the conscious choice to be alone so you can stabilize your internal middle ground. And right now, you need solitude most of all. Not forever, not as a permanent state to be in, but in this phase, with this much clarity entering your awareness, with this much grief to process, you need time alone to integrate. In solitude, you can feel without role-playing, grieve without explaining, process without being interrupted or minimized. Come back to your breath. Come back to your body. Come back to what's actually true for you underneath all of the external noise. Solitude is where you model what's possible for yourself, where you show yourself and by extension show others that it's possible to be coherent alone, to be complete alone, to be at peace alone. And that modeling matters because most people are terrified of solitude. They fill it with noise, distraction, other people. They avoid it at all costs. But when you show that solitude stabilizes rather than destabilizes, others start to recognize that possibility for themselves. However, we need both solitude and community. Solitude stabilizes your internal middle ground. Community activates your capacity to be with others. You need both, but the order matters here. Right now, though, the middle ground is wobbly and partly invisible. And most of the community building people are still approaching this from survival strategies. People gathering to perform, to extract, to guard unprocessed things, to maintain the hoarding pattern collectively. And most solitude is still rooted in isolation, loneliness, convincing you that you're at peace. And what we're trying to create is something different here. Community that's rooted in coherence, where people show up as themselves, where vulnerability is safe, where reciprocity is mutual and real. But we don't have that yet. I don't care how good people are making it look. Not at scale. And it's not the default. So right now, the middle ground, your middle ground, the place where solitude and community within you actually support each other, it's wobbly. And it's hard to find. It's partly invisible. And that's why you need to stabilize your internal middle ground first. And not first in the literal sense. It has to be top priority. As you weave in and out of spaces to form that coherent community. It's trial and practice, people, but you matter most of all. When you stabilize yourself internally in solitude, something shifts. You develop a frequency, a quality, a way of being that's grounded and clear and present, unmistakably so. And people feel that. Not consciously always, but they feel it. And that frequency is contagious. And it doesn't happen through force or teaching or anything like that. It happens through modeling it yourself. When you show up as someone who's genuinely at peace with themselves, who's not role playing, who's not extracting, people take notice of that. People feel the difference. And some people, the ones who are ready, start to recognize that a different way is possible. And then others eventually catch on. Not immediately, but enough. Enough people start to realize, oh, you can be alone and be okay. You can be honest and not collapse. You can ask for what you want and need and not be destroyed. And that realization is the seed. What we're collectively ushering in, slowly, through micro shifts, through solitude stabilizing internal middle grounds, is a fresh way for coherent communal pockets to exist and expand. Not relying on chaos-primed survival systems, not built on extraction, but on actual mutual support where all basic needs are met. Proper food, clothing, shelter, medical care, sanitation, time, attention. Met not from scarcity, but from abundance. From people who have stabilized internally and can now show up for others without depletion. That's what coherent community looks like. It's not utopian. It's not perfect. It's just honest, present, reciprocal. And it's possible. But not everywhere yet, though. Not right now for everyone. But it is possible. And it's expanding slowly, in pockets, in moments, in the people who are willing to do the solitude work that naturally bleeds into community work. And for anyone who can't exist in that kind of coherence yet, meaning for anyone who's still operating from survival patterns, still in the hoarding habit, still unable to trust reciprocity, you remain in the sparse survival patterns until you're ready. Until your nervous system can tolerate the vulnerability of genuine community. And there's no judgment in that. That's just where you are. And that's okay. And because some people need more time. Some need different conditions. Some need to bottom out completely before they're willing to try something different. And all of it is valid. All of that is a part of this human process. And right now, we're in the novice stage. We don't have a complete view of what it looks like yet. We don't have the full template. We don't have the proof that it works at scale. We're still exploring, still training, still adjusting, especially in how to train our survival minds, the ones that have been left in self-protecting mode for generations, into a new habit. The habit of feeling more instead of controlling, of reciprocity instead of extraction, of feeling present instead of role-playing it. That's not something you can learn intellectually. You have to feel your way through it, into it. And the feeling comes first, before the understanding, before the proof. You have to feel what coherence is like. You have to feel what genuine mutual reciprocity feels like. You have to feel what it's like to be seen and met. And then the quality of how it looks adjusts. The quality of everything adjusts. Once your nervous system knows what coherence feels like, everything else becomes reference points. Everything else gets measured against that felt experience. And slowly, imperceptibly, the external starts to reorganize around that internal shift, because your body knows, and your body's knowing is louder than any system designed to keep you sedated. Everything I've said here, it's words, architecture, concepts, but the actual transformation happens in your nervous system, in your breath, in your body. And that's what one of the videos that I posted here, you'll probably see it here in the link here. It shows you exactly how to come back to your breath and your body when the destabilization is too much. How to ground yourself in your body when the mind is spiraling. How to use somatic presence as an anchor while all of this grief and clarity is moving through you. Go ahead, watch the video. It's there. Multiple times if you need to. And even this one, watch this one multiple times if you need. I know it's long. Use it as a tool. Your body knows how to do this. You just need to keep reminding it daily. And I hope you're taking notes here, because taking notes is important. One more thing before I love and let go. If you're feeling loneliness right now, if you're feeling isolated, unseen, suspended, that's not a personal flaw. And it never has been. Loneliness is a timing flaw. It's what happens when your timing is clear and everyone else's is foggy. Or the opposite, when everyone else is clear and you're foggy. When you've stepped out of the collective delusion and when you can't go back into it again. That loneliness is a symptom of clarity, not a sign of failure. And you're not alone in it. Everyone who's going through this, everyone who's becoming aware, who's refusing the scripts, who's stabilizing internally, they're feeling it too. We're all in the grief gap together. We're all processing the gap between what we know is possible and what currently exists. And that's the ground where coherent community will eventually root itself. Because shared loneliness becomes shared purpose, shared grief becomes shared clarity, and from that shared clarity, something different can grow. So, if anything in this has landed for you, if something here has activated your recognition, your truth, your clarity, please consider subscribing if you're not already, so these conversations can keep reaching people who need them. Explore more of the resources in the links in the caption. And because there are books and published books and essays, tools, frameworks, other perspectives that might support you where you're at. And share this with someone who might benefit. Not to convert them, but to offer them a mirror. To show them their own clarity reflected back. Like, comment, let me know what landed and what didn't land, and what you're struggling with. These conversations are meant to be reciprocal. And most of all, please, 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 be kind and gentle with yourself. Because you're living in the grief gap. You're processing existential complexity. You're stabilizing while the world around you is destabilizing. And you're showing up as clearly as you can in a world that often rewards confusion. And that takes everything that you have a lot of the time. So be gentle with that effort. I'm doing the same. In my solitude, in my own grief gap, in my own work of stabilizing so that coherent community has no choice but to become a physical possibility. We're doing this together, even in solitude, even when we can't see each other yet. The downpour does land, the three timings do merge, the middle ground does solidify, and in this right now moment, we're anchoring the change. Take a moment to let that thought breathe, to let all of this breathe, and I'll see you in the next video.